comic books, Dungeons and Dragons, science fiction, video games, anime, conventions, cosplaying. These are all the things that geeks and nerds loved and still love. And now they've become popular things. We're in a beautiful era of geek culture acceptance, and I don't think people understand that we are. Back when I was younger, asking someone if they played World of Warcraft was a risky business because you were exposing yourself as a nerd and you were being vulnerable to a new person. So it could either get you mocked, or you might find yourself deep in conversation with a new person. Nowadays, people are loved because of those things. Streamers, YouTubers, even celebrities. It's a fantastic turnaround of what it used to be. I'm only 22, but I know generations before me had an even harder time with this sort of thing. Torn comics, smashed action figures, black eyes, the works, you know. And social exclusion was always hand in hand with nerds. But for me, it was a good thing in the long run. In middle school, I only really had two friends. We'll call them Thing 1 and Thing 2. I was a shy kid, so I met Thing 1 in 7th grade because I was forced to be his partner in a class project. Today we're best friends. Thing 2 is a story for a different day, but the three of us were basically the three amigos of the middle school. Thing 1 eventually found another group of friends he liked to hang out with, a group of nerds. I was a nerd too, I still am, but again I was quiet and I didn't even want to risk exposing myself to them even, so I just held on to my common ground with Thing 2 and Thing 1. This group of nerds Thing 1 had met hung out on a spot that was dubbed Nerd Hill. It was a very small hill with a large tree that fit their group size well. Everyone had their clique spots in school, but this one was Nerd Hill, designated for nerds specifically. Nowadays, the idea of Nerd Hill brings my group together. Those kids on that hill are my best friends, and I'm part of the Nerd Hill gang, and I love it. But I hung out on the blacktop for the most part with Thing 1 and Thing 2. But that social status isolation of Nerd Hill was real. And it brought my group together to be stronger in the end, years after we graduated high school. But being a nerd in my time was hard in its own way. You couldn't just talk about certain video games without getting judged, certain shows, certain things you even just loved. People could just cut you out of their life completely once they had heard enough about you. And I'm sure it was like that for different people for different reasons in different places. But that's why I love today. Everything I loved back then is something I still love now, and my horizons have expanded even further. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons in high school, and a little after that it started becoming a more mainstream thing. Celebrities started shows around it, YouTube channels revolved their content around it, and eventually just became accepted among the populace. Originally, people thought D&D was evil. Literally, people thought it had to do with devil worship and blood sacrifices, but in reality, it was just another form of escapism. Like movies or video games or books, D&D is just throwing yourself into a new world as a new person that you wanted to be and go on adventures of all sorts to escape the bullying of life. So to all the young nerds out there who aren't happy in their current situation, that's okay. Time will change and eventually you will too. You'll mold into a better, stronger person as time goes on. And for those who have their own Nerd Hill spot at school, own it. Because once you're out of school, none of that will even matter. And the bonds you make from having each other's backs is what will carry with you out of high school. So just be resilient. And take heed, young weeds.